Jackson on the drive, kicks it out for man. Man, three-pointer, bang! Oh, what a man!
Magic down the middle, just what I thought. A hook shot at 12, good!
Here's Michael at the foul line, a shot on Elo, good! The Bulls win! They win it!
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ,
Going up over Bell, ball away. Yes! Yes! At the buzzer, he does it! Was there ever a doubt? A Smith screen. Posey will defend. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life.
It's a physical game. Oh, man, oh, God! A monster jam by Blake Griffin.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another playoff preview here for the 2022-23 playoffs on Dime Dropper. Before we get started, you already know the deal. Subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell for all things NBA, LA sports, and, of course, the NBA playoffs. For this episode, we are continuing our previews with authentic fans of the teams involved in the series, making their Dime Dropper debuts. We've got Alex from Hawks Fan TV and Kiana representing the Celtics. I'm going to start with Hawks Fan TV. Give us a little story, your background with the team, your fandom, and the content you make on them.
Yeah. Appreciate you having me on the show, Dime. Alex from Hawks Fan TV, been a fan for 30 years now, from Atlanta.
30 years? You look way younger than that. How old are you, man?
30.
Okay.
Yeah, the big 30. I've been a fan out the womb. My pops took me to a game when I was like 1 year old. This was back when the arena was the Omni. So I've seen a lot of changes over the last 30 years, but excited to talk some Hawks Celtics today.
Hey, my name is Kiana. Haven't been a Celtics fan for quite 30 years, but pretty much been watching Celtic basketball all my life. We had a great season, and I'm just ready for the postseason.
Well, there we go. The Celtics and the Hawks, as of these two teams, not too much recent history, but obviously Celtics and the Hawks go back to even the St. Louis days meeting in the finals, the Larry Bird, Dominique Wilkins, and then in recent memory, twice with Joe Johnson. Actually, I think his last series as a Hawk and his last game as a Hawk was against the Celtics. So now we got these new iterations of the team, the JT era, the Trae Young era. The Hawks obviously beating the Miami Heat, a little upset, getting into the playoffs through the play-in. The Celtics, they hit the ground running. One of the title favorites, obviously coming off their finals loss last year. Championship or bust kind of season for Boston. Before we get started on the actual series, let the good people here know, like a quick, brief summary of your season, starting with Hawks Fan TV. You guys brought in DeJounte Murray. It was expected you guys would take a leap. You hovered around 500 basically the entire year. Another coach out the door, Nate McMillan. You bring in Quinn Snyder. And it seems like things are starting to go well now. But just give us an idea of the season, why you didn't improve with DeJounte, and how mainly your starters have done this season, including Trae Young.
Yeah, the season record-wise was probably the biggest disappointment, dating back. We regressed from last season, right? I think we finished last year at like 44 and 30-something. We finished at 500 this year. So obviously, from that standpoint, really disappointing. Obviously brought in more talent with DeJounte in the offseason and a couple of bench players, and we made some acquisitions at the deadline, bringing in Sadiq Bey, who's been huge for us. But honestly, it really boils down to one thing, Don. That was the coaching issue, and Nate McMillan, from what I've heard, the front office really didn't want to extend Nate McMillan after that ECF run a couple years ago. But since we did go to the ECF and, we're 2 wins away from the finals, they felt like they kind of had to. So we extended Nate. Unfortunately, I wasn't the biggest fan of that move because we've seen what Nate McMillan has done in the past, and he's never been a winning coach in the postseason especially. But there's a reason why he's been fired at pretty much every single organization he's ever been employed at. And with the Atlanta, it was no different. So with that, our offense was just really stagnant, really like 1990 style of basketball, hunting mismatches and like shooting a lot of mid-range jumpers. And in today's NBA, that just isn't the formula for winning. So we fired him and got Quinn Snyder in. When you look at the record, like a lot of casuals will be like, oh, well, you brought in Quinn with 20-some games left in the season. And we finished at 11-10 when Quinn took over. So only one game above 500. But it's really hard to come in as a head coach with no familiarity with your roster, coming in that late into the season. He can't turn like water into wine, right? But he's done a lot of good things. The offense has tremendously improved since then. The defense has gotten better, and you just see kind of the ball movement that we weren't used to seeing when Nate McMillan was here. And I think that was on full display against Miami. We had a few days to prep. We scouted them in the late in the regular season when we went into Miami to play that back-to-back game against them, and we lost. But when it came down to it, Coach Quinn outcoached, Eric Spoelstra in that series. We put Bam and Jimmy Butler in hell all day, and Trae Young played great, almost had a triple-double, and we came out with a dub. If it wasn't for Kyle Lowry's like outer body experience that he's never ever going to do for the rest of his career, then we would have won by like 20 points. So dominated them, and I'm excited for this series.
Nothing on the individuals, though. It was just on the coach. How about Trae Young, DeJounte? I mean, Trae Young didn't even make the All-Star team this year, even though he's still averaging like 27 and 10.
Yeah, he led the league in assists yet again, in total assists, finished top 15 in scoring. And the last I remember when Trae didn't make the All-Star game, when he got snubbed, we made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So we'll see what happens. Trae played great. DeJounte played great, hit some big shots down the stretch. And our bench and our other role players did exactly what they needed to do. And on paper, like I've said it even last year, like Miami versus us, we have a more talented team top to bottom, but we just didn't implement a good game plan or scheme to neutralize their defense and offense. But Quinn made a lot of adjustments, and we saw the result. We dominated them for pretty much the full 48 minutes.
All right, Kiana, give us the scoop on the Celtics. Obviously, come out with a huge kind of scandal before the season. Ime Udoka. You have Joe Mazzulla take over, and people were kind of thinking, well, will that be a distraction? Will they still be as good of a team as they were last year? But to start the season, you guys kind of blew the doors open on the NBA. Jayson Tatum was in MVP talks. Jaylen Brown playing at such a high level. Give me the rundown on the season. Seemed like you guys slowed down a little bit towards the end. But obviously in the 2 seed, how are you feeling going into the playoffs and the overall season?
Yeah, well, the season started, prior to the season started, we got the Ime news. I literally woke up in the middle of the night and was like sick to my stomach. I could not go back to sleep. It was an awful feeling. And then shortly after that, we got the Rob news that Rob was going to be out for a significant amount of time.
Right.
And honestly, that wasn't a good time to be a Celtics fan. We were excited about the season about to be starting. We were excited to make this great run. And that was a lot of adversity to start the season. A lot of people said essentially that without Ime, we weren't going to be successful. Without Rob, we were going to be a middling, 5th or 6th seed for the majority of the year. And like you said, they came out with the best offense that the NBA has ever seen for a good chunk of November. And then it started to slow down like mid-December. But we definitely had some highs and some lows. This year, we made a theme of showing up and being great against the great teams in the East and in the West. And we've had a pattern of not getting up for, the OKC or the Magic or the Rockets. I could keep going. So we kind of had an up and down season, but overall, we still ended number 2 in defensive rating, number 1 in offensive rating. And we did that without having our starting 5 for a majority of the year. So excited about the playoffs. I would agree that I think a lot of people are shocked that this matchup is going to be the Celtics and the Hawks. But I'm excited.
So Boston, the only team in the NBA that finished top 5 in both offensive and defensive rating. A lot of people have them going all the way. HFTV, man, do you believe that you guys can win this series? Because you are heavy underdogs here. Heavy. I mean, 3-0 sweep in the season series. Now, granted, the season series, especially in today's NBA where the regular season is super devalued, I wouldn't look too far into it. But do you really believe you can win this series? I mean, after that last game, I would assume that your confidence is normally extremely high, irrationally high, in my opinion. It's got to be very high now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a lot closer than what a lot of people think, right? Like the comments I've been seeing is like, oh, the Celtics are going to sweep the Hawks and just like steamroll them. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the record, like 41-41, kind of is clouding a lot of people's judgments. But I get it. Like the Celtics are a great team. They just made the finals last year, and they have, a great young duo in Tatum and Brown. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be a lot closer. And, if we win, I wouldn't be that shocked.
What's your prediction right now, though?
You said what?
What's your prediction as of now?
Right now, I'm going to go on record and say Hawks in 7.
Okay. Winning a Game 7 in Boston, that's tough. Very few teams have done that in history, winning a Game 7 in Boston. But, before we shift it back to Kiana, I want to ask about DeJounte Murray. You didn't really talk about him too much in the first opening of the episode, but his stats look about as the same as last year. How's the fit been? He played really well to close out that last game in the play-in. He clearly adds something to your defense, but tell me how he's been.
DJ's been solid for us. I think early in the season when he wasn't having like super high production outputs was simply because like it was a brand new team. He was still building up that chemistry. But as you mentioned, he still finished with 20 plus points for the season, averaged like 6+ assists for the season, and I think like 6 rebounds and a steal and a half. So overall, I'm pleased with what he brought. We definitely needed like a legitimate second ball handler that could kind of create his own shot and also play make for others, which he did. I think, if you guys look at DeJounte's career, he's been in the playoffs twice, but he wasn't a starter in either of those. The first postseason run he had with the Spurs, he averaged like 2 minutes a game because it was his rookie year. And then his sophomore season, he averaged like 18 minutes a game off the bench. But this is his first playoffs as a starter for his whole entire career. And one of the main reasons why he did want to come to Atlanta and request that trade was because he wanted to play in the postseason. So I think he's going to have that dog in him, and he's going to be hungry to kind of show out like what he can do. There's been a lot of like crazy nonsense that I've been seeing from Celtics fans saying that like Derek White is like way better than DeJounte Murray, which is just blasphemous. Like there's a reason why Derek White was not Murray. He was his backup for a reason in San Antonio. So we'll just keep it at that. Derek White's solid. Like he's great. I wanted Derek White in the trade deadline last year. So I know Derek White's a good player. He's just not DeJounte Murray. He's not a better scorer than DeJounte. He's not a better playmaker, and he's not a better defender than DeJounte. So I think a lot of Celtics fans are going to be surprised with what they see from DeJounte. So we'll see. I'm excited.
Kiana, talk to us about what you think. Do you think it's going to be an easy series for you, quick and painless? Anything you're worried about with these guys?
So if you want a formal prediction, I would say Celtics in 5.
Okay, I'm going with Celtics in 5 too.
Yeah, that's my thought. Anything over that is going to be very annoying and very frustrating.
Right.
My main concern with them is that I fully believe that the team, and I know my whole timeline of Celtics fans, we thought we were playing Miami.
Right.
And and I wanted to play the Hawks because I can go drive down and see a game. But I think as a community, if we're going to be honest, we all thought we were going to play Miami. And
you wanted to play Miami. That's what you were hoping for.
No, I want to play the Hawks.
No, definitely not.
But I think that this year we've seen that they tend to not get up and overlook opponents that are not, the elite of the East and the West. And I don't think Miami is an elite team in the East this year, but I do think that that's a matchup that I think they would get up a little bit more for. So my concern is that the intensity that they need to bring it needs to be what it would be for that Heat series. Coming in and not taking the matchup seriously is how you find out that this becomes a 6 or a 7 game series. And I don't want that to happen. I think the fact that we don't have to play the Heat and the Hawks, and now we can play the Hawks, hopefully we take care of business and it'll give us time to kind of be on par with how the people think the other teams in the East are going to go, as far as not having a 7 game series and potentially playing whoever in the second round that is well rested. So that's my biggest concern, honestly, is that they show up to play.
Let's talk about Jayson Tatum for a second. I mean, he had an amazing playoff run last year, but he didn't perform well in the finals, struggled with some injuries or whatnot. Came out the gates going nuts. Was like favorite for MVP the first couple of weeks, kind of dropped off, but still has been amazing this season. I consider him like a top 7 player in the NBA now for me. Talk to me about what you expect from him. Do you think he's ready to lead this team to the finals, to lift the trophy, get banner 18. And the one thing with Tatum is I think sometimes he can get a little too contested three happy at times. Do you think he'll be able to channel that, take smarter shots, and perform at the highest levels throughout the postseason? Do you have that confidence yet?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had that confidence. But we're definitely going to need him to do that to get to where we want to be as far as the finals. Jaylen Brown fully participated in practice today. He doesn't have anything on his hand anymore. I think there's like a clear like tape around two of his fingers. But he fully participated in practice and he should be a go for game 1. So that's an update on JB. But yeah, I think JT started off really strong this year. And then he got into a horrific shooting slump that lasted for a pretty long time. Usually the slumps are maybe a couple of games or 2 weeks, but this year it was a pretty large inefficient slump. So I expect that not to happen in the final or in the playoff run. And I think that's something that he needs to strongly work on, not taking the contested threes. We've seen it. I think the Kings game, it was like the first 5 plays of the game was JT working on the post. I'm like, why don't we see this every game? Why are you
like that, right?
Yeah, I would love to see JT. He does it, and when he does do it, he's pretty efficient at it, but he does like to take, I think he's at like 9 or 10 threes a game. And when he makes it, that's phenomenal. Of course,
right.
So he goes 6 from 10 from the 3, you're like, kudos. But when the nights that he goes 2 for 10, you would like to see him, go to the paint a little bit more and finish, because that is an issue. A lot of people say all he does is shoot threes. All he does is shoot threes. Well, he does get to the paint, but when you talk about the inefficient part, sometimes when he gets to the rack, he can't finish, and that's something that is going to need to happen, not just against the Hawks, but in any series. So yeah, the MVP thing, of course, he's not in MVP conversations legitimately this year, but I think he should finish top 5 still.
Couple things about Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, obviously a native. What do you call people from Atlanta? HFTV, Atlantan?
AT alien, baby.
AT alien. Well, he's one of those.
And for 26 younger cats, that's an Outcast coin term with their album, because they're obviously from Atlanta. So
there we go. 26.6 points a game for JB, 7 rebounds a game, a career year for sure. Let's talk about I also want to say this about Jayson Tatum. I want to give him a shout out because when I saw him play his rookie year at TD Garden when I was at UMass, so my first year at UMass was his rookie year, I said this guy's going to average 30 one day. I just saw it. He'll push back on it. I don't know why, especially in today's NBA.
I had several people before the season tell me that he could not average 30 points. Like, could not. Like, with a straight face, like, they were 125% correct, which is just laughable based on what he averaged last year. But
yeah, I mean, JT is a beast. Let's go to the role players, though, real quick, both sides. HFTV, man, I feel like when DeAndre Hunter and John Collins have good games, it really changes everything for you guys. We saw great games from Capella in that Miami game. We saw great games from Okongwu. Your 9-man rotation now with the bench being Bogdanovich, Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu, and who's the other guy I'm forgetting?
Sadiq
Bey. Really looks like a solid 9-man rotation. Tell me about how DeAndre Hunter and John Collins have been this season. Or I should say the front court. Your front court starting lineup, how they've been this season, and what you're going to need from them to pull off this upset.
Yeah, I think from Clint Capella did exactly what he needed to do, right? Eating up the glass, getting second chance points for us, tip-ins, catching lobs. JC and DeAndre, in my opinion, probably underperformed, especially John Collins, because he went through absolutely disgusting shooting slump pretty much for 80% of the season. And then the last 15, 20 games or so, his 3-point shot kind of looked back to normal. But the dude was shooting 24% from 3 this season, whereas for his career, he was close to a 40% 3-point shooter. So that hurt us with the spacing and things of that nature. But DeAndre Hunter, he did have technically a career year points per game wise, but I don't know. It's I was expecting a much bigger jump from Dre. He just got that huge extension this past offseason. I was hoping he would kind of solidify himself as the number 3 on this team. But he kind of he didn't live up to my personal expectations. But he wasn't like a disappointment by any means. I think John Collins was probably the bigger disappointment just because of that shooting slump, whether it was injured finger or all the trade rumors that he's been circling in for the past 2-3 years. Maybe they got in his head, but all of that is behind us now. So DeAndre Hunter, I think Dre, like, he's our best perimeter defender, and I'm pretty sure DeAndre Hunter is going to match up with Jayson Tatum pretty much stride for stride. And Dre's a great defender. Like, he's 6'8", 225. Like, he can stay in front of Jayson Tatum. Obviously, Jayson Tatum's a great player, so he's still going to score his points. But out of anyone in this roster, like, DeAndre Hunter is going to make it the most difficult for him. Same with Jalen Johnson. So I think really the key role players in this series, it's like, I think Dre needs to have a big game to try to neutralize whatever Tatum does. But I think, like, our bench is going to be, like, really, really solid for us. I think Bogey, he's historically known to be like a great second half player. And Bogey's been shooting like 44% from three since the All-Star break. So I think Bogey's going to be great. Jalen Johnson, who not many people know because he's really a rookie this year. Nate McMillan did not play him at all last year. But Jalen Johnson, I think, is also going to be one of the primary defenders on Jayson Tatum. For all you people who don't know who Jalen Johnson is, he's 6'9", 230, and as athletic as they come. So I think he's going to cause a little problems for Tatum. But like I said, it's going to be a group effort because with great players like Jayson Tatum and Trae Young, like, you can never shut them down completely. You can only hope to slow them down. And I think a heavy dosage of DeAndre and Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu is going to make things more difficult for Jayson Tatum than a lot of people realize.
I'm thinking about it now. Probably going to throw DeJounte Murray on JB, DeAndre Hunter on Tatum, switch a little bit. But I'm thinking about it now, looking at this. The Hawks, top 10 offense in the league this year, 7th in offensive rating, 22nd in defensive rating. I think you guys are going to be in a little bit of trouble because I think the Celtics have a lot of great bodies to throw at Trae Young. You got Marcus Smart and Derek White, who have been amazing defensively this season. And obviously Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think they're going to try to put Trae Young in the action a lot, like you see most teams do, especially the Heat the last game. Celtics are a smart team. Kiana, let me know about Time Lord's health. How's he feeling going into this?
Time Lord is doing fabulous.
Great.
I think we did a good job of managing him this year, his minutes. He started for a little while, and then we put him back on the bench after he had the hamstring injury. So he's been around like 22-ish minutes for most of the year. The last couple of games that he played in, we got him ramped up to 30 minutes to try to get him ready for playoff basketball. But the last couple of games he played in, he looked phenomenal. So I'm excited to get the Rob back that we had, honestly, last year, not even the playoffs, but before the playoffs started last year. That was the Rob that could help us get back to the finals.
How about Derek? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
From a Hawks standpoint, like, I hope Rob Williams plays the majority of the minutes over Al Horford, simply because, like, with Al, obviously, like, he can space the floor, he can shoot threes, and we need Clint Capella kind of in the paint. And with Rob, like, obviously he's not a floor spacer. So for our sake, I hope Rob Williams gets the start.
So Joe has been going back and forth with the lineup. As a Celtics fan, we have no idea if we're going double big or if we're going Al at the 5. Based on what you just said, and I said this earlier in a space, I want to start with Al and space the floor. That's what I would do. And Joe likes that type of ball. So if I had to make a guess, that's what I think we would do. But I don't know. He's like a month ago, he said Rob would continue to come off the bench. I don't know if that was just a regular season or not. But I agree. We go with Al at the 5, space the floor, pull Clint out, and that hopefully we don't get killed on the boards. So
Al Horford, has he been just as good as last season? Basically, not many signs of aging.
So yeah, Al's been good. Defensively, it looks like he's kind of taking a step back, but I think that's just him preserving, because on games where we needed him to step up for key matchups, it's there. And you're like, oh, crap. The last 2 weeks of Al looking like whatever, we've been talking crap about him. He's really just trying to coast so that he can be the Al that we need him to be in the playoffs. So he looks great. I think he finished the season with the best 3-point percentage, if I'm not mistaken.
No way better than the nuke, Luke Kennard.
But he has been lights out from three. And there was a graphic that I saw this week, and it showed like shooters that are like typically left open, and for some reason him and Brog were there, and that doesn't really make sense to me. But he's been phenomenal this year, and I'm very excited to see the more aggressive playoff Al.
45% from three for Al Horford. I just checked. That's amazing. And I forgot about this Al Horford angle. He's a great Atlanta Hawk. So he's going to be making his return.
Yeah, Al and JB's from the area,
Right.
so it should be great.
You mentioned Malcolm Brogdon. He's somebody who I thought, like, I wanted the Clippers to get him so badly before the season. I think he is going to be so big in the playoffs. Super smart player. Just controls pace very well. Good shooter. How's he been for you overall? And do you think he should win Sixth Man of the Year? Because I was just talking about
He should absolutely win Sixth Man of the Year.
Because I was just talking about Knicks fans out here in the Cavs Knicks preview, and they were saying Emmanuel quickly all day long.
I have gone back and forth. I try not to go back and forth with people, but these Knicks fans are very, very annoying. And Malcolm Brogdon should absolutely win Sixth Man of the Year. Anything other than that is a freaking travesty, and that is how I feel. But as far as to the team, he's been phenomenal to the team. Whenever our offense gets stagnant or we just need a bucket, we can count on Brog to just take it right to the rack and finish, or at least get to the line and get us 2 points the easy way. And he's been phenomenal from three. It sounds crazy to say, but there have been times where he cannot make a layup to save his life, but he'll take a three, and I'm just like, and it goes in every time. It goes in every single time. So he's exactly what we needed. I think he's going to be the difference maker in the playoffs this year. That and the fact that Derek White as a player this year is so much better than he was last year in the playoffs. But yeah, I think Brog is a missing piece to try to help get us there.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about Derek White this year. People are saying he should be all defense. Do you agree with that?
First team, for sure.
Wow. Okay. And then I forgot Jabari. Shout out to you, another Hawks fan. One of my only actual Hawks fan subscribers, reminding me Hawks did play the Celtics in 2016 with Isaiah Thomas. I forgot about that. Hawks won in 6. And that was a good series. Don't act like it was a blowout.
Yeah.
But my last question for you, Kiana, is Marcus Smart. He's always a guy who is involved in games. I mean, he's never a quiet player. Won Defensive Player of the Year last year. Has he been just as good as last season? What should we expect from him in the playoffs? And that's basically all I got.
Okay. I love Marcus. Love him. I'm a big Marcus person. A lot of people don't want him on the team. I love Marcus. Love and trust all day, every day. He's admitted it. The defense this year has not been what we are accustomed to. He came into the season with the lingering ankle injury that he had last postseason. So that was kind of bothering him. He missed a couple of games, a couple of times due to that injury just nagging.
21 games missed. That's a lot.
Yeah. So the defense isn't what I would like it to be. I think this year Derek White is a better defender on the team than him this year, and I think Derek White voters should not be lazy and just give Marcus the vote just because it should go to Derek White. He should be first team all defense.
So you putting him on Trae Young to start game 1?
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to start, but if he does, yeah, that's what I would do. It probably is going to be Marcus, but that's what I would do.
Yeah, Marcus. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say Marcus Smart's shooting splits. I didn't see these. Look ugly compared to last year.
Yeah.
40.
So the beginning of the year, he was great. He was the point guard that we all knew that he could be as far as facilitating, passing, the assists. There was a game where he was getting like 8-9 assists a game with like 1 or 0 turnovers. And then he got hurt. And ever since he's come back from the injury, it went from not only the defense taking a step back to the offense taking a step back. So that is something, there is a debate about whether he should start or whether White should start. And I think it is a real conversation. I don't know if Joe would ever do it, but it just hasn't been what we got from him last year, if I'm going to be completely honest.
Last question, yes or no? Do you trust Mazzulla to be the leader of this championship team?
I don't really have a choice, do I? But no, I think Joe has done there are some things that grinded my gears this year. The timeouts were a big thing at the beginning of the year. I understand.
Like he wasn't calling him on some Phil Jackson, let him figure it out type shit.
Yeah. And he made it very clear that that was his philosophy. And the team made it very clear that that does not work for them. So that has improved. The rotations have been an issue. And that has kind of sort of improved. The issue with that is that we haven't really been healthy. I think it was like 2/3 or halfway through the season, and our starting lineup played like 36 minutes together, which is ridiculous. So he just really hasn't had the time to play with the lineups in the rotations. But I think given the circumstances, he's done a great job. And I think the playoffs will be a test to see what he truly is made of. But I have the confidence in him to try to get us there.
HFTV, if you lose this series, will this be a failure of a season?
I mean, it's a failure just because we were in the play-in again. And a lot of us fans expected us to be at least like at minimum, like a top 6 seed. I had us as a 5th seed, possibly contending for a 4th if we were like.
I had you 7th.
I had you 7th too.
Yeah, but I mean, from that aspect, I think it was already a disappointing season with Nate pretty much being the head coach for like majority of the season. So I think the real test is going to come next year when we actually have a full off season and a full year with Quinn Snyder.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you're going up against a great team. Like if we get swept, then I think that would be definitely a disappointment. If we can make it competitive and, push it to 6 or 7, then, hey, we hold up our heads high and then we move on to next year. But we kind of put ourselves in this situation. So we'll see. But like with like some of the narratives that I'm hearing around, like the Celtics are just going to completely shut down Trae. Like Trae averaged 31 and 10 against the Celtics this year. And obviously there's a lot of good bodies that you could throw at Trae, but you also have to remember like that's exactly what the Sixers and Bucks thought 2 years ago in the postseason. And no disrespect to like the Celtics defenders, but like a prime Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle and Drew Holiday, Giannis are just better defenders than anything that the Celtics have, in my opinion. And Trae still cooked them for like 30 and 10. So yeah, I'll be excited to see it. Obviously, he had a rough series last year, and that's like the lingering black cloud that a lot of people still remember. Like, oh, Trae is a dud in the postseason when the year before that the dude was breaking records in his playoff debut. So I think he's going to be hungry to kind of get that chip off his shoulder and show like the national world, like, hey, he is him. So we'll see.
Hey, great stuff, guys. I really loved both sides. Let us know let the good people here know where they can find you. Kiana, you go first.
You can find me on Twitter. My username is, I think, let me see, because I don't even know.
Well, it'll, regardless of if you can pull it up or not, yeah. I'll have all the links in the description. So, guys, please follow them and check out their stuff. Okay. But Hawks Fan TV?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you know where to find me, at Hawks Fan TV on all socials, Instagram, Twitter, hawksfantv.com for all the latest news, rumors, and arguments that your little basketball hearts desire. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And, it should be a fun, exciting series.
Appreciate everybody. Let me know in the pinned comment what your prediction for this series is. If you listen to this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, thank you. I still feel sorry for you. You couldn't see the 3 beautiful faces on the screen. But you guys still let us know. Apple Podcast review, leave a 5-star, whatever it may be. Hawks and Celtics starting on Saturday. I got the Season 5, the championship quest for Boston begins.